On the phone, we have the newest member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, former Atlanta Falcon and Philadelphia Eagle, Claude Humphrey. How you doing today, Claude?
I'm doing pretty good. All things considering it's cold here in Memphis, I'm doing pretty good.
It can't be as cold as Chicago has been this winter.
Well, I don't know. I think we're doing record temperatures here, so it's pretty cold.
I see that you went to Tennessee State for college. How did you end up choosing that school?
How to go about choosing it?
Yes.
Well, I visited quite a few schools uh, in my attempt to go to college, and uh, it just narrowed down. It narrowed down to Tennessee State and a little school up in Kentucky called Murray, and so I chose Tennessee State. It, Tennessee State was appeared to be the best deal for me. Everybody has their things that they like. I like Tennessee State, so I visited Grambling and Texas Southern and a few other schools, in the Southwest. Jackson State because it was close to my hometown. Being close was really a factor for me in choosing university.
It seemed like back at that time, Eddie Robinson got all the great players down there in the South.
Well, he almost had me had he not brought me in. If he brought me in to visit there, and shoot, it wasn't nothing to do with Grambling. I'm not that being from Memphis made me a real city person, but I wasn't quite as country as you need to be able to live in Grambling. Grambling's a small place, and shoot, you had to go so far to do anything other than the activities on the campus and stuff. So Grambling County, if he had not done that, he may have had a better chance to get me.
It actually worked out well for you, though, at Tennessee State.
It did. It did. It was the best decision that I could have ever made
Who was your
dealing
coach
with
at
my education.
Who was your coach at Tennessee State?
My coach at Tennessee State was John Merritt and Joe Gilliam, Alvin Coleman, J.C. Coffey, Coach Little. We had about Whitman. We had a few coaches now.
Joe Gilliam, he wasn't too shabby of a player back in his time.
You know what? I really didn't realize how great a player he is, but he was such a great athlete. He was really a great athlete, and I learned that by taking stunts and tumblings from him. And shoot, he could do stuff that some of us 17, 18-year-olds couldn't do. He was a great athlete.
Did you play any big games in college against any of the bigger universities?
We played San Diego State my senior year, and of course they beat us, but it was we beat them physically. We beat them down. They scored. I think they scored on a punt return and something else, but been so long ago. But we played San Diego State my senior year, and they were one of 4 losses that I had in my 4 years at Tennessee State.
Did you have second thoughts about not going to Grambling? Because, I mean, Grambling was a pipeline to the NFL back then.
I didn't know that. I didn't. I wasn't informed of that little tribute. But of course, at that time, I really wasn't even considering the NFL. I didn't have. I had no interest in playing professional football. I was just there to try to get an education and just play football. So I didn't really did that would not have been a factor because I didn't know it.
Were the big schools recruiting the black athletes in the mid '60s, or was it still kind of like unless you were going to one of the northern schools, the southern schools shied away from the black athletes?
The southern schools shied away from the black athletes. I had one school to tell me they would enroll me, but a couple of teams in their conference probably wouldn't allow me to play against them. So I was told that. So I just, going to the bigger southern schools was eliminated at that point.
What school was that, or you don't want to say?
I can't tell you. I don't. I would not even want to tell you.
I mean, you started a tradition, though, at Tennessee State of great defensive linemen going to the NFL. After you, there was Too Tall Jones and then Richard Dent.
Yeah, and a few others. Don't forget Turkey, Joe Jones, that played for Cleveland. And there were quite a few guys, defensive linemen, that Tommy Davis. There was a few guys that out of Tennessee State after I was drafted that went up there and stayed a while and played well in the NFL.
How surprised were you that you got drafted third overall by the Falcons?
Wasn't really surprised at all. I kind of knew. My John Merritt was my coach and agent, and he was pretty well informed. He kept himself. The one thing about him, he knew what was going on, and I kind of knew that maybe a month before the draft, I knew that the Falcons, if they had a chance, was going to take me. And the Falcons was drafted second, but third overall, because at that year Minnesota had a bonus pick. So, the first Cincinnati had the first pick. They picked Bob center from Tennessee, and then Minnesota picked Ron Yeri, and then it was the Falcons' choice. They picked me.
What was your first training camp like?
Oh, I'll kill him. You don't really want to know. It was a killer. It was a rude awakening to football. Now at Tennessee State, we practiced really hard, and we practiced 3 times a day, and all that stuff. We had 2 regular practices, a special team practice. So we were practicing 3 times a day, and I guess because I was so relaxed practicing at Tennessee State, it went along pretty good. But man, when I got to the Falcons up there in Johnson City, Tennessee, it was so hot. I tell you what, it was ridiculous. And then they made no allowances for it. We just went. We could have practiced earlier in the morning, later in the afternoon. But shoot, we went out there the hot part of practice, and we beat each other down. It was tough. It was tough. It was nothing like college. Even though in college we practiced 3 times a day, we were only practicing 2 times a day in Johnson City. But I tell you what, Johnson City was hot.
And then you went through a coaching change your rookie year. I mean, you had a new coach, 2-3 games into the season?
We had, what's funny about that? I had Norm Van Brocklin in the college All-Star game. And, he was tough, but he seemed like a nice guy. The coaches have to be disciplinary. And so he discipline was pretty good at the college All-Star game. But 3 games into the season, they fired Norm Hecker. and brought Norm Van Brocklin in there, and wow, what a difference in norms. Norm Van Brocklin was off the chain. He worked us like crazy. And not only did he work us physically, but he worked us mentally too. It was tough. It was tough.
You had some great players on that roster on the Chicago All-Star game in '68.
We did. We did. We had some guys that really lasted in the NFL for long periods of time and played well. And I'm still friends with a lot of them.
You had a lot of Hall of Famers. I mean, there was you, Zonka, Curly Culp, I think Charlie Sanders,
Yeah,
Ron Yari.
yeah. We had. It was nice. It was nice. We had some great players.
But then you had to go against that Packers team, though, which had to be tough.
Forrest Gregg.
Is that who you lined up against?
Yeah, I was up against a great Forrest Gregg. Forrest gave me a lesson in how to play in the NFL. I thought I was ready. I was up there playing, working against Ron Yeri and John Williams and those guys, and I thought I was pretty good. But I found out that I had a lot to learn, and in a short time to learn it in. And Forrest Gregg gave me a lesson in how to be kept away from the quarterback.
You went against a lot of great tackles. Was he the toughest one you went against?
Who? Forrest?
Forrest.
Well, I caught Forrest at the end of his professional career, so I can't quite rate him up there with some guys like Bob Brown and of course Ron Yeri. He finally got himself together, and Rayfield Wright. Some of those guys were just great football players, and so it'd be tough. The time that I faced him, even though I know Forrest Gregg's greatness, I didn't get a chance to experience it because he was right at the end of his career, and some things were just probably wasn't as sharp as they may have been earlier in his younger days, because I understand he was a terror. But when I caught him, I caught him right at the end of his career.
Was it hard playing for a coach, Norm Van Brocklin, who was a Hall of Famer? Did he expect everyone to play as well as he did?
Yeah. He expected everybody to play as well as he did and better. And it didn't take him long to tell you that. I mean, he got right down to it. Norm didn't beat around the bush. If it was something that needed to be said, he said it, and he disregarded your feelings or anything like that. You're a professional, and you're going to be treated that way, and so he didn't have any guys that he treated different. Everybody got treated the same, which is really one of the good things about him. He when he got on me, he got on everybody else the same way. So that's one of the things that I respected most about him. He got on everybody the same, and he was pretty tough on us.
You didn't have that many winning seasons there back in the late 60s. You had, 12 wins, I think, in the 60s? That'd be tough on you guys.
Don't remind me of the 60s. We got a little bit better in the 70s, but I tell you what, we started to get some good players. George Kuntz, we got Bartkowski, we began to get some good players, but prior to that, we wasn't very good, and teams knew it, and they took advantage of it.
Do you remember that first Monday Night Football game in '70?
Do I remember it?
Yes.
I don't. I don't. I don't remember the first Monday night game. Was it a Howard Cosell game?
They all, I think, were Howard Cosell games according to him.
I don't remember.
Was there a game that stood out with the Falcons as like your best game?
You mean for the Monday night game?
No, in your career with the Falcons, was there a game that stood out?
Of course. There are a couple games that stood out for me. One was the Minnesota game, my rookie year, and then later on, around 76 or 70, 75, 76, something like that. I didn't play in the 75 season, so it must have been 76 maybe. A game against the Rams I had an outstanding game. I can remember that one just like it yesterday. Of course, I can remember Minnesota ones too, but I had a couple games that just stuck out.
Why didn't you play in the 75 season?
I got my knee torn up. I got a lateral ligament tear, and it sidelined me for the whole season.
The 70 Monday Night Football game was November 30th against Miami. They won 20-7.
Well, you want me to tell you about the time that Larry Slumper ran over me? Is that what
you could talk about that? That Dolphins offensive line was tough, though. I'm you. Langer, Kuchenberg, Larry Little.
It wasn't the offensive line. It was that big running back sitting back there that was tough on us.
Zonka?
Yeah. I remember. I remember the incident. I didn't remember exactly, the game itself, but I do remember the incident when sucker just ran right up my chest. I didn't get ready for him. I wasn't ready for him. Where you normally get ready for a running back, and he showed me that you got to be ready all the time. Never happened again, but and that was the Monday night game.
I mean, he was like a sixth offensive lineman, Zonk. He was so big.
He was. He was, and he got that shoulder and used that forearm, and that was really abuse. Having to tackle him, he was a great running back.
No,
and he played great for a long time.
And Mercury Morris would talk and tell you how good he was.
I'm for sure.
With the sacks, did you enjoy getting the sacks more or tackling the running backs more?
I enjoyed the whole game. There was no part of it that I enjoyed more than other, because at the time, a sack was just a tackle. Nobody really counted sacks back then. It was just a tackle. So, I enjoyed both. I enjoyed doing both. But I tell you what, the most fun was batting balls. I felt like that was one of my strong suits. And I got a chance to bat a whole lot of balls. I probably batted down more balls than some of the defensive backs for a season until they stopped throwing over there. They used to try to throw a lot of quick outs on me my rookie year, and I got a chance to bat a lot of balls. My hurries, I was real happy about, the hurries that I got, and it wasn't roughing the quarterback now, so like it is now. So, we got a chance to tee off on the quarterback. Those things were good things that I remember.
Do you remember your two safeties?
Beg pardon?
Do you remember the two safeties you had?
Well, I've had so many safeties. I, I had so many safeties back there. Uh, which ones are you referring to?
It said you had two in your NFL career.
Oh, I had the corners, the corners that I was referring to, trying to help make their jobs a lot easier. Those I was talking about corners, not safeties.
Oh, okay. And then when you went to the Eagles, was that a change for you playing for Dick Vermeil?
When I went to the Eagles, I played for Marion Campbell, whom I played for uh, in Atlanta, and we became real good friends. And so when got to the Eagles, I was still playing for Marion Campbell. I was playing the same defense that I played in Atlanta. The only thing is, the offense was better, so it made me play better because I wasn't getting beat up. I wasn't out on the field all the time. In Atlanta, we spent most of the time defensively out on the field because our offense didn't do very much. When I got to Philadelphia, the offense was very good. Wilbur Montgomery and Harold Carmichael and Ron Jaworski, and they were very good. Jerry Sizemore, they were a good team offensively, and so the time spent on the field wasn't as great. So when you come out the field, you wouldn't be as tired, and when you go back, you could play harder because the game had progressed so much. So I enjoyed playing with a good offensive team.
And then you got to that Super Bowl 15. That'd be a highlight.
It had to be a highlight.
I mean, you didn't win the game, but getting in the game at least.
Well, it was kind of a low light for me because nothing seemed to go right for me for that game. I had during the season, we had played the Raiders and we had beat them, and I had like 3 sacks or something in the game. And then when we got to the Super Bowl, I didn't get a chance to start, and I was standing over on the sideline getting angry about not getting in the game. And then when I finally did get in there, I roughed the quarterback, and they threw a flag, and the whole it was just a disaster for me. It did, the Raiders beat us, and it wasn't a good week. It was not a good week, I'll tell you that.
Everybody remembers you throwing that flag back at the referee. Was that just instinct, or were you really pissed at him?
I was really pissed because he threw it at me. Instead of throwing it on the ground, he threw it at me, and I got offended by him throwing it at me. So I guess he was pissed too. So he threw the flag right at me, and I picked it up and threw it. And I don't know. If I had a chance to do it all over again, I wouldn't do it. But at the moment, it was the way things were. It was the passion of the game and the way the game was going, and Plunkett had completed the pass to Kenny King down the sideline, and Kenny King was still running, and all that stuff rolled up in one just created a furnace inside of me. And then he threw the flag at me. That's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, you had that quarterback, Jim Plunkett. I think my grandmother is faster than Jim Plunkett was back at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you went into acting. You were on an episode of The Dukes of Hazzard, I see.
Yeah. Well, that was the year. That was the year I retired. I played 4 games in that season, then retired, and that was the year I retired. I did the Dukes of Hazzard.
What was that like being on that show?
It was a little different. I mean, like all things, it was a learning process for me. And I didn't realize that actors went through what they go through. People think it's easy, but it's not. It's really not easy. You got to really work at it.
Did you get a chance to drive the General Lee at all?
No. No, didn't want to drive the John Lee. I had a Z28 Camaro, and it was maybe to me was a little more hotter than the John Lee. So it wasn't. It didn't appeal to me to drive it.
I met Boss Hogg back when I was young, probably in the early '80s. He was such a nice guy, that Sherelle book.
He was. He was. All those guys were nice. I mean, they treated me very well. I don't know if it was because I was a football player and I kind of dwarfed those guys or not, but they treated me very well. And of course the whole cast did. The directors and the workers and set guys and everybody. Everybody was very nice to me, and it was an enjoyable experience. But I knew that I was going to go back and play football, so I did that program, but wasn't really interested in doing any more. I knew I was going to go back and play football.
Did your wife tell you to stay away from Daisy Duke, though?
No. Boy, see, what I did the pilot for the Dukes of Hazzard, so none of that had been aired, so my wife didn't know anything about it. So she didn't tell me anything.
What took so long for you to get in the Hall of Fame?
Probably my one loss with the Falcons, and probably I'd say probably the misinterpretation of the relationship of leaving the Falcons. I think that may have had something to do with it, and just that we didn't win a lot of games. I wasn't on a winning team. We didn't go to the Super Bowl. It was, you notice that most of the guys that go to the Hall of Fame are guys who played in the Super Bowl 3-4 times like that, and there is, not to say it, but there seems like there are some rules and regulations that govern you getting into the Hall of Fame, and my career just didn't, based on the years that I spent in Atlanta and then the years I spent in Philadelphia. I think that probably had a lot to do with it. The Philadelphia years may have helped quite more than the years I spent in Atlanta because we were winning.
Yeah, they made you wait. They made Curly Culp wait. They made a lot of great defensive linemen wait.
Well, the good thing about waiting is it makes you more. It makes it so much better. I don't know what I would have done if I had gone in like Derek and Walter, first year of eligibility and all that. I might have been beside myself, but it got a chance for me to gain some humility and respect for the game. So.
How hard was it playing in Atlanta on all those losing teams? Did you want to just give up after a while?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to give up after a while. It was tough. It was tough because it wasn't like the Atlanta Falcons is today on the Arthur Blank. And Thomas Dimitroff. Those guys really worked to put a good program on the field, and I don't think that back in the days they did that. They were satisfied that we were filling the stadium every Sunday, and they rather than the caliber of players that they were putting out on the field.
Who's gonna be your presenter when you go in the Hall of Fame?
My daughter. She has we hadn't. It's not set in concrete, but she has first right to refuse it, and so far she has not refused. So I'm thinking that it's going to be my elder daughter.
What was it like when you got that phone call on Saturday?
It was. It's a little story that goes along with that. I don't know if you have time for me to tell you.
Go ahead.
But in the past, when you were a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you had to stay by the phone and wait for the phone call. And they would tell you, if you don't get the phone call, you didn't make it, you know. And you had to wait to see who did make it on the TV. Well, that was like a couple of hours after. So, you know, you wait all that time for the phone call. The phone call never comes, and then all of a sudden on TV, you see the guys who made it, and your name wasn't up there. Well, this time they did it a little different. They brought in all 17 finalists for the Hall of Fame into New York and put us up in the hotel, and they told us that they would call our room. And so I'm in the room with my daughter, Claudia. And, you know, it's funny. I turned to Claudia after 20 minutes and I said, look like we're in trouble. Then after 25 minutes, I told her, I said, well, you might as well call everybody and, you know, tell them that we didn't make it. And just as I got that out of my mouth, the phone rang, and they said, congratulations, you're a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I just, you know, I almost passed out. The blood rushed to my head and everything. It was amazing. I mean, I hadn't felt that way since I was a first round draft choice for the Atlanta Falcons.
The only thing I feel bad about, though, is that your wife's not going to be there to enjoy it with you.
Yeah. My wife was my biggest supporter, and of course my biggest PR person. She, for all those years and all those times that I was up for the Hall of Fame, she worked diligently trying to do what she could. We really didn't know what it was that she was supposed to be doing, but she tried to get in touch with the voters, and she wrote letters, and she had people to write letters, and the whole thing. And she just worked. And then when I didn't make it, we cried together about it. So, you know, not having her not to make it now and not have her here to enjoy is kind of a bittersweet to do, but you know, life goes on.
She went up. She went upstairs and got it done upstairs.
You know what? I felt her presence. I felt her presence. We were in the orientation meeting after the voting, and I was just sitting there and I was thinking about her, and all of a sudden I just felt good. I felt good, and I think that she's proud of it. The fact that I finally got in.
She has more power up there to get it done than down here, it looks like.
Yeah, that's exactly right.